Welcome back to the channel, Hobby1 Kenobi here. I'm continuing work on the Hasegawa AH-64A Apache in 1/48 scale. The cockpit is ready to be installed to one side of the fuselage. The inside of the fuselage has been painted NATO black. A glue looper loaded with thin CA glue is used to secure the pieces. The bulkhead for the main rotor has been constructed and painted a color approximating the exterior green of the helicopter. The green isn't necessarily the actual shade I will use to finish the model, but close enough for now, since this color will be difficult to see once the model is finished. Clamps are used to keep the fuselage halves together, while the Tamiya extra thin cement effectively melts the pieces together. At this point, I will often involve a little bit of thin CA for areas that might need a stronger bond. There are two thin pieces of sheet metal along the back of the helicopter. These are depicted with thick pieces of polystyrene in the kit. I decided to thin these pieces in an attempt to make them look even more realistic, like the actual metal pieces. I could have fashioned these pieces out of metal or even very thin plastic, but I decided to thin the pieces that came with the kit. These were thinned carefully by scraping an X-Acto blade flat along the part. Sanding sticks were also used to assist the work. After the fuselage was dry, it was time to start adding several other panels along the model. With a little sanding, these pieces fit fairly well. I next examined the detail at the front of the helicopter and decided to remove it and replace the details with styrene. I first clipped off the raised pieces and sanded the material down with sanding sticks. Before I went further, I decided to work on the engine exhausts. These were cast in two parts, which resulted in a seam. The real aircraft has no such seam, so I glued the pieces with Tamiya extra thin. After the product was applied, I waited a few seconds, then squeezed the pieces together. Melted plastic oozed out from the seam and filled it. I then allowed this melted plastic to dry and scraped it away with X-Acto blades and sanded it away with sanding sticks. The engine nacelles also had a seam which ran the length of the part. Checking my references, I found that a seam should be present, as the nacelle consists of many panels that can be removed for ease of engine maintenance. However, one small section of the seam should be filled in. This was filled with CA glue and worked away with sanding sticks. Finally, I returned to the front of the fuselage. Two panels are provided, but they didn't fit cleanly. I decided to attach them anyway and cover them up with Scratch-built styrene replacements. To create these, I drew directly on the styrene with a pencil, then cut the shape out. Now I was able to check the shape and size of the piece against the actual model. Adjustments were made with scissors and sanding sticks. The corners were rounded off with sandpaper. Once I was happy with the shape, I used CA to adhere them to the fuselage. At this time, I found there were some small differences in their sizes, so I further worked them down with sanding sticks. Sandpaper was used to smooth out the profile of the new panels. Finally, discs were sliced from stretch sprue, and each piece was meticulously glued to represent rivets on the panels. Lastly, I scratch built the panels found protruding from the pilot's control console. I am not sure of the exact function of these, but my references show that they are quite thin. I again traced the shape of these parts and cut them out. They were attached with super glue, and that completes the first construction video for this Apache. If you enjoyed this content, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.